When I got started, I was $63,000 in debt. That bought what I needed to do to go to work. That bought 3 machines and a pickup. 2 years ago, I bought a used grader for $152,000. It's way different. To buy them new, the 3 machines, all brand new, I'd say an easy million.
That's what I was going to say, over $1 million.
Yeah, easy million. Originally, I got a 1984 grader, and so this was in 1995. But a 1984 grader, a 1961 11-yard scraper, and a 94 Heston tractor, and a 1983 terracer. And counting the tractor and terracer as one machine, because one doesn't work without the other. But yeah, I bought those 3 machines, and so far I've replaced the grader twice, the scraper 4 times, the tractor and terracer once. And the only brand new machine I've bought was a brand new terracer. And the original one cost me $6,000, and the new one cost me $60,000 in 2014. A lot more expensive.
I can't tell you what that first bulldozer cost, because that was long before I was born. But I can tell you, Dad bought the first Power Shift D7E that Martin Tractor Company ever sold, and it was just a skosh over $30,000. And I can remember my dad saying, bulldozer costs as much as a quarter section of land. Well, now land prices have gone nuts, and quarter section might bring $1 million, and for that same size of dozer, it's not going to cost you $1 million, but $450,000, $500,000 and on up range for the size that we use. I mean, we don't use massive machines that you see in mines and stuff, because you got to be able to haul them down the highway. So, like I said, that first one he bought, I couldn't tell you what the cost was. He never did relay that to me that I know of. So, anyways, but yeah, they've gone up a bunch. And I remember in 1981, he bought a D7G, and it was $168,000, I believe. Now they're, 500,000, 600,000 plus, for the same machine that do the same work, I should say.
How does that compare functionality wise to the ones we have?
Oh, there's no comparison. You sat out there in the open, you had a hydraulic tank right here with 200-degree oil right by you in the summertime. It's nice in the winter, but of course you had, and then the fuel tank was behind you, and the mechanics of it, you had to pull a steering clutch, step on a brake to turn, and now you just have a joystick and turn left, turn right, forward, back, and you got a deal you run with your thumb for your speed control and whatnot. And the same way with the blade control, you just have a joystick. You used to have a pedal on the floor to run the tilt cylinder to tip the blade, and then you had a lever that go down and up, and of course there was so much play in it, all you did all day long, arm back and forth and back and forth. But it's a lot better. Yeah, and then cabs and air conditioners and all that. And I mean, that D7G that we had, it was air conditioned, but it was a joke, it worked about 60% of the time, anyway, because there was always something going wrong with it back in those days. Now the air conditioners are a lot more bulletproof. I mean, we don't hardly ever have issues with an air conditioner unless they wear out. Yeah, they're trouble-free, but no, it's a lot nicer. I mean, just like there 2 weeks ago, I was opening roads in the snow and sitting in there with the heater on and radio going, and whatnot, and snow was a-boiling over the blade and going everywhere. And if it had been back then, it'd have been 3 layers of clothes and a ski mask and gloves and comfort covers on the dozer to direct a little heat off the engine back on you. And
earplugs.
Yeah, and squeaky, squawky tracks and noisy engines and whatnot, but
not as much hearing loss.
Right. Oh, yeah. And of course, when I ran a dozer when I was younger, noisy dozers, I wasn't going to be one of them wearing earphones and stuff, and couldn't be cool, to do that. Anyway,
look cool with it.
Yeah, and now I'm like, why didn't I do that?
Really?
But that's just the way we grew up. Nope, things are much nicer now, but they cost a lot more.
I just purchased I've got 2 of the new. Well, I've had 4 of the new electric drive machines that Caterpillar has now. My last one I just bought a year ago was just a pinch under $500,000, and I bought bought an undercarriage for one of them just right before the end of the year, and the set of tracks for one now was $40,000. So things have gotten pretty crazy as far as expense goes, you know. But like Jeff said, the technology's phenomenal on these new machines. You've got GPS on them now, you know, and we run GPS on both of our machines. One of our machines has the one my son runs. Of course, he's more technological than I am, you know, and he can actually pull up on the machine, set the blade down, and design what he wants to build. And the machine won't steer itself, but it will physically build it for him if he wanted it to. He don't really ever do that, but because he can use it as an indicator, it shows him where he's at all the time. But it's a pretty neat system. It's expensive. That system cost us, well, the system on the machine cost about $70,000 for the GPS part of it on the machine, and then we had to buy a $40,000 base to run it. But it's worth it because it speeds you up. It makes you so much faster, so much more efficient at what you do. Through KLICA, they've had a lot of seminars about this to teach us about it and stuff over the years, you know. And I fought it for a long time because I was old school, didn't think I needed it, but it'll spoil you once you get it and get used to it. It's pretty neat stuff.
Well, how did people do this stuff 50 years before that? I mean,
Horses.
this horse.
20s? Oh, yeah.
Horses.
Yeah, I would have been in 20s.
Yeah.
It is amazing when you talk to those people that were alive then and what they did and how they did it. And it amazes me to look at pictures of those guys because everybody thinks of a construction worker, somebody big equipment, it's great big guys, and there are around. But especially in our association, you look at the size of our members, most of them are my size, Jeff's size.
Right.
You know, Kim's not that big. He's tall, but he's not that big. There's not a lot of 250, 300-pound guys, 6'2".
Burly.
No,
Yeah.
no.
There's little scrawny guys, but you look back at those pictures of them guys doing that stuff back in the 30s and 40s and older than that, and they're little scrawny guys.
Well,
Those guys
they were
would
working
work.
hard.
They would work. And
Yeah.
you look at the tumble bugs and you think about, you see this old tumble bug sitting out in the pasture someplace, and you look at where that's at and what was built close to that,
I just got
and
done.
how many hundreds of thousands of yards did that old little bitty quarter yard or third of a yard thing dig out?
I was just thinking about that. I leveled off an old railroad right away, and that railroad right away had to be built in the mid 1800s. And I was thinking about that when I was leveling that off. I thought, and that thing was packed so hard, but it was all put in there with horses just a yard at a time.
I'm doing some of that same stuff, getting rid of
I'm
some
telling you.
railroad right away, and just how, you know.
You think about all the dirt they moved and
Yeah.
how long
The
that had to
cuts.
take to do that.
Yeah, the cuts through the hills on the
Yeah, make a
on that
20-foot
railroad
cut.
bed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know much about it. I kind of, when I drive by one of these railroad right of ways that's been out here for, almost 100 years ago, and you know, most of that was built with horses and slips, you know. There at Hutchinson, there's a 20-foot fill runs through there for over a mile, you know, and I don't know exactly when it was built, I have no idea, but if it was built in the 20s, a lot of it would have been done with horses.
And what's a slip? I don't know.
That was just a deal that hauled about a quarter of a yard of dirt that drug on the ground, and you walked behind it. The team driver walked behind it and picked it up and lifted it so it would dump. That's the way a lot of those old railroads were built. That was ahead of my time, maybe not these guys, but it was ahead of my time.
My great-granddad built a pond using a slip, which was basically a giant scoop shovel with a GP John Deere. And I forget, he had a neighbor that helped him. One of them run the tractor and the other one run the slip. And then they'd swap back and forth to build a pond in a pasture that needed water. About halfway through the job, the tractor died and wouldn't start. And he ended up rebuilding it in the bottom of the pond to finish the job. So, yeah, they had it pretty tough. I've heard stories of when the soil bank was first starting, the farmers would farm around the hill until the ditches got so bad that then they farmed up and down the hill. The place that my great-grandparents were on my dad's side, were farmers, And they got to that point that they were farming up and down the hill with horses. And the first of the D8 dozers had come out at the beginning of the soil bank era when the government was paying you to put the land, to idle it like they did with the CRP. And they talked about it took 2 D8s to shove a cottonwood tree out. And when they rolled it over into the ditch, it disappeared. So they had some major conservation issues back in those days. Most everything I ever learned to run, the guy said, there's the key and those are the levers. Don't tear anything up. And and then you go start talking, listening to the old guys, and that's where you start learning, well, you can do this instead of that, and you know, so.
When Dad got that first D9, they delivered that and he was on it for about an hour. Next morning, I figured he's gonna stay on that and I was gonna be running the D7. He said, you get on there, there's a big hill, make it go down there. And
Yeah.
that was pretty well it.
Would have been nice to have the GPS technology that we got now back then, but made it work. And you can go way back, some of the stuff that was done in engineering stuff with nothing but an old level and bubble, you know, and whatnot. So times, like I say, everything evolves and changes, and who knows when autonomous is going to take over and we'll sit at home on our computers, or I won't, my son will, because I don't know that I'm competent to do that. The farming way is coming faster than the bulldozing way. I mean, we farm too. We farm about 1,500 acres, but that stuff, machine control on that is just, you know, it's totally hands-free anymore in the combine or the tractor and the planter. You just hit your resume button and cross your arms and do a little Facebooking while you're going through the field, make sure everything's working, and turn around at the end and come back. But I'm not there myself with the dozing, but the farming's really coming along that way. And I'm sure, because I was out in Vegas at the Con Expo out there, and they were running a machine in Europe from Las Vegas. And, you know, doing some digging with an excavator and stuff. Yep, running it all from thousands of miles away, you know, just amazing what's coming.